The hot spring slip. On the afternoon of June 14, 2016, 20-year-old Colin Scott walked with his sister Sable through the Norris Geyser Basin in Yellowstone National Park. The air was quiet except for the distant hiss of steam rising from the geothermal pools around them. They had spent the morning studying the wooden boardwalk signs, reading about the fragile crust that covered boiling water just beneath the surface. But as the day grew warmer and the crowds thinned, Colin began drifting toward areas that were clearly marked as prohibited. Sable later explained that her brother wanted to perform what he jokingly called a quick hot spring test. He stepped off the boardwalk, moving carefully between patches of ground that looked stable enough. Steam drifted around him. Beneath his shoes, the crust was only a few centimeters thick, but it appeared solid in the fading afternoon light. Colin knelt near the edge of a shimmering pool, the water a surreal blue that glowed as if lit from inside. He reached out his hand to feel the heat rising from the surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like a snapping branch, the thin mineral crust gave way beneath him. Sable screamed as her brother plunged into water that was hotter than 90 degrees Celsius. The shock was instant and overwhelming. Colin tried to push himself upward, but the edges crumbled around him. The surrounding steam swallowed his figure as he slipped beneath the surface. Rangers arrived soon after, but the acidic water prevented any immediate recovery. The pool swallowed nearly everything. It was a moment that highlighted the deceptive calm of Yellowstone's thermal areas, where one misplaced step can mean the difference between safety and disaster. The quiet landscape, peaceful at first glance, hides forces powerful enough to dissolve stone and bone alike. The bison approach. Between 2015 and 2017, Yellowstone saw an unusual trend of tourists approaching bison for close-up photos. Rangers repeatedly issued warnings, yet every month someone ignored them. One summer afternoon, a middle-aged man walked confidently toward a massive bull grazing in a meadow near the Old Faithful area. Visitors looked on in disbelief as he stepped closer and closer, posing with his phone held high. The bison lifted its head, twitching its tail in irritation. The man inched forward, smiling at the camera. He extended one hand as if greeting a pet. Without warning, the bull lunged. The ground shook as hundreds of kilograms of muscle charged forward. The man had no time to react. The bison struck him, lifting his body off the ground and throwing him several meters through the air. Rangers and bystanders rushed to help, but the injuries were catastrophic. The power of a bison is immense, and even a short charge can be fatal. The meadow, calm moments earlier, now held a stark reminder that wild animals are not props, ornaments, or companions. They react with instinct and strength, unconcerned with human expectations. The selfie step back. Early in the morning on March 28, 2019, a 33-year-old tourist from India visited the Grand Canyon's Eagle Point. The sun had just begun to rise, painting the massive cliffs in shades of gold and orange. He and his friends stood at the edge of the viewpoint, talking excitedly about capturing the perfect memory of their trip. Smartphones hovered in the air around them. The wind pushed lightly at their clothes. Rangers often warned visitors not to move backward near the cliff edge, yet every week people ignored this advice in pursuit of dramatic pictures. The man positioned himself with the canyon behind him, a breathtaking expanse that looked almost unreal. He lifted his phone and smiled. Then he took a single step back. The gravel shifted under his shoe. His friends shouted. For one suspended moment, he flailed his arms, trying to regain balance on a surface that no longer existed beneath him. Then he vanished over the edge. The fall was more than 300 meters. Rangers later explained that once a visitor passes the tipping point, there is nothing to grab, nothing to slow the descent. The canyon walls drop nearly straight down. When rescue teams reached the bottom, they confirmed the tragic outcome. The man's phone lay several meters away from him, screen shattered but still glowing faintly. A reminder of how a simple backward step, made for a photo, can turn one of Earth's most beautiful places into a deadly cliff. The flip-flop climb. On August 15, 2005, a group of hikers in Glacier National Park spotted a lone figure climbing the icy ledges of the Highline Trail. The man wore shorts, a thin t-shirt, and most notably, a pair of flip-flops. Despite the cold wind rushing down from the Continental Divide, he appeared determined to make it across a narrow, ice-covered section of the ridge. The trail was dangerous even for experienced hikers with proper boots and trekking poles. Footprints left by earlier hikers had frozen into hard, slippery ridges. Beneath the frost lay a steep, unforgiving drop. Witnesses later said the man laughed as he walked, trying to keep his balance by stretching out his arms like a tightrope performer. His flip-flops slapped loudly against the ice. Each step required delicate shifting of weight, yet he moved quickly as if unaware of the danger. Halfway across the icy section, the rubber of his sandal bent under him. His foot slid sideways. He tried to correct the movement, but the surface gave no traction. His legs folded beneath him and he tumbled off the ridge, falling out of sight within seconds. Hikers rushed to the edge, but there was no path down that could be safely navigated. Rangers later recovered his body hundreds of meters below. The simple choice of footwear had turned a manageable trail into a fatal slope. Glacier's beauty often disguises its hazards, and even one small mistake can turn deadly when snow and ice control the landscape. The geyser rescue attempt. On July 20, 1981, 32-year-old David Kerwin stood with friends near Yellowstone's Celestine Pool. Steam drifted lazily from the water, giving the area an otherworldly appearance. The group's dog Moosey played near the edge, sniffing at rocks and trotting along the warm ground. Without warning, the dog slipped and fell into the pool. Moosey yelped in terror as boiling water engulfed him. Bystanders screamed, urging David not to jump. They begged him to stop. They told him the water was near boiling temperature and that even rescuers would not enter it. But David did not hesitate. Driven by panic and instinct, he sprinted toward the pool and dove in. Witnesses recalled a sickening sound as he hit the water. David surfaced once, blinded and burned, shouting incoherently before sinking again. Two friends tried to drag him out by grabbing his arms, pulling him across ground so hot that their shoes softened. David survived only a few hours after reaching the hospital. His final attempt to save the dog became one of Yellowstone's most tragic examples of how quickly emotion can override reason in a landscape where hesitation is essential for survival. The Canyon Shortcut. During an extreme heat wave in the late 1970s, 31-year-old hiker David Whitaker attempted a descent into the Grand Canyon using an unofficial route. He wanted to reach the Colorado River faster than the traditional trails allowed. Rangers later explained that the route he chose consisted of steep scree, loose rock, and sections with no shade for kilometers. David carried limited water. In the early morning, as he descended, the temperature climbed rapidly. By midday, it reached more than 40 degrees Celsius. Heat waves shimmered across the rock walls, distorting the horizon. His progress slowed. He took off his backpack to move more freely and left it behind, believing he could retrieve it later. Tracks found by search teams showed that he zigzagged between small rock formations, likely searching for any patch of shadow that could provide relief. But the canyon offers little shelter during the hottest months. Dehydration set in quickly. Eventually, his footsteps grew erratic. Then they stopped. Rangers found his body the following day. His water supply was almost untouched. In the confusion of heat exhaustion, hikers often lose the ability to think clearly enough to drink. The canyon, with its enormous beauty, conceals a heat that can strip away strength and judgment faster than most visitors realize. The Snow Bridge Collapse. On May 25, 2018, a group of tourists explored the early-season snowfields of Mount Rainier National Park. Patches of sunlight glimmered across the snow, creating bright crystals on the surface. Beneath these footprints, however, flowed hidden streams of meltwater, carving cavities that transformed solid-looking surfaces into fragile snow bridges. One of the visitors, a man in his 30s, walked toward a dramatic viewpoint. He wanted a picture showing the deep valley behind him. To achieve this angle, he stepped onto a wide patch of snow, unaware that the space under it had melted into a hollow cave. He raised his camera, smiling toward his friend. A faint crack echoed beneath him. The snow sagged. His smile faded. Seconds later, the entire section collapsed, dropping him into a dark crevasse below. His friend shouted for help. Rangers arrived quickly but faced a dangerous descent. The crevasse narrowed sharply, and the fallen snow blocked access. By the time rescuers reached the bottom, the man had succumbed to injuries from the fall. Mount Rainier's late spring terrain is deceptive. The crust may appear solid, but the ground beneath can vanish without warning. Even a single misplaced step can break the surface like thin glass. The heatwave walk. In July 2014, during one of the hottest weeks recorded that decade, a German tourist attempted a solo hike in Death Valley National Park. Temperatures soared above 50 degrees Celsius. The air shimmered above the cracked earth as if the entire landscape were burning. He parked his rental car along a remote section of road and began walking without sufficient water. Rangers later estimated that he carried less than 1 liter. The trail he followed cut across open desert, offering no shade, no wind, and no relief from the heat. As the day progressed, his steps became shorter. He dropped items along the path to lighten his load. A camera case, then a hat, then eventually the nearly empty water bottle. His footprints drifted left and right, evidence of growing disorientation. When rangers found him, he was lying on the ground several kilometers from his car. The heat had overwhelmed him long before help could arrive. Death Valley's name is not a metaphor. In extreme temperatures, the body loses moisture faster than the mind can register the danger.